Well, welcome to lesson 184. The name of God is my inheritance. And from a frame of reference, like within the world where we think of inheritance as something where we're going to get lots of stuff, hopefully, and be able to live comfortably and well off, the name of God may not seem like much. It might seem like, well, what else? But the understanding that the worldly sense of things is really nothing, and that the name of God is something that, as your inheritance, reunites you with reality, reunites you with truth, with the eternal realm. And having had a brief experience of the eternal realm, I guarantee you that there is nothing in the world that is so dear to me as that, and nothing that I really value here. It's kind of like the experience of truth and that state of mind, that eternal presence is everything. It's something that feels natural, feels like home, because it is home. It's so hard to explain, so very hard to explain. And I had a nice little thing this morning. I say thing, it was like not really a revelation, but kind of like a recollection. I was just started reading again the book I was talking about the other night, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and just refreshing where it is that I was at back then, like when I was about 20 odd years old, reading that book for the first time. And I pick it up now and I'm looking at it and I'm going, wow, I've come a long way since this, as far as my understanding of my purpose and everything in the world goes, and how it is that that's become more solidified, or more, it's like I can touch it. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you first start your spiritual journey, it seems to be like other people talking to you, or books, and they're telling you about things that you're not familiar with. And now it's sort of like I look back at it and it's like, this is somewhere near where I started, Jonathan Livingston Seagull and The Prophet and Power of Now and all those sorts of books. But now that's manifest in me, all of that technology read through those books and people that I've met along the way and everything. It's kind of like, it's funny, I don't know how to really explain that. But anyway, so the name of God being my inheritance, that's all I want. All right, that's all I could possibly ever really ask for, and that's all that's ever going to fulfill me. And I'll just read it now. You live by symbols. You have made up names. The first sentence. You live by symbols. It's like, you have made up names for everything you see. Each one becomes a separate entity, identified by its own name. By this, you carve it out of unity. By this, you designate its special attributes and set it off from other things by emphasizing space surrounding it. This space you lay between all things to which you give a different name, all happenings in terms of place and time, all bodies which are greeted by a name. This space you see as setting off all things from one another is the means by which the world's perception is achieved. You see something where nothing is, and see as well nothing where there is unity, a space between all things and you. Thus do you think you have given life in separation. By this split, you think you are established as a unity which functions with an independent will. What are these names by which the world becomes a series of discrete events, What are these names by which the world becomes a series of discrete events, of things ununified, of bodies kept apart and holding bits of mind as separate awarenesses? You gave these names to them, establishing perception as you wished to have perception be. The nameless things were given names, and thus reality was given them as well. For what is named is given meaning, and will then be seen as meaningful, a cause of true effects with consequence inherent in itself. This is the way reality is made by partial vision, purposefully set against the given truth. Its enemy is wholeness. It conceives of little things and looks upon them, and a lack of space, a sense of unity or vision which sees differently, becomes the threats which it must overcome, conflict with, and deny. Yet does this other vision still remain a natural direction for the mind to channel its perception. It is hard to teach the mind 1,000 alien names and thousands more, yet you believe this is what learning means. It's one essential goal by which communication is achieved and concepts can be meaningfully shared. This is the sum of the inheritance the world bestows, and everyone who learns to think that it is so accepts the signs and symbols which assert the world is real. It is for this they stand. They leave no doubt that what is named is there. It can be seen as is anticipated. What denies that it is false is but illusion, for it is the ultimate reality. To question it is madness, to accept its presence is the proof of sanity. Such is the teaching of the world. It is a phase of learning, listen to this. It is a phase of learning everyone who comes must go through. Get it? It is a phase of learning everyone who comes must go through, because you need to learn how to appreciate what it is that the power of your mind is capable of as being able to make a choice between illusions and truth. Okay? It is a phase of learning everyone who comes must go through. But the sooner he perceives on what it rests, how questionable are its premises, how doubtful its results, the sooner does he question its effects. Learning which stops with what the world would teach stops short of meaning. In its proper place, it serves but as a starting point from which another kind of learning can begin. Okay? In its proper place, it serves but as a starting point from which another kind of learning can begin. A new perception can be gained, and all the arbitrary names the world bestows can be withdrawn as they are raised to doubt. Think not you made the world. Illusions, yes, but what is true in earth and heaven is beyond your naming. When you call upon a brother, it is to his body that you make appeal. His true identity is hidden from you by what you believe he really is. I'll read that again, that's really cool. When you call upon a brother, it is to his body that you make appeal. His true identity is hidden from you by what you believe he really is. His body makes response to what you call him, for his mind consents to take the name you give him as your own. And thus his unity is twice denied, for you perceive him separate from you, and he accepts this separate name as his. It would indeed be strange if you were asked to go beyond all symbols of the world, forgetting them forever, yet were asked to take a teaching function. You have need to use the symbols of the world a while, but be you not deceived by them as well. They do not stand for anything at all, and in your practicing it is this thought that will release you from them. They become but means by which you can communicate in ways the world can understand, but which you recognize is not the unity where true communication can be found. Thus what you need are intervals each day in which the learning of the world becomes a transitory phase, a prison house from which you go into the sunlight and forget the darkness. Here you understand the word, the name which God has given you, the one identity which all things share, the one acknowledgement of what is true. And then step back to darkness, not because you think it real, but only to proclaim its unreality in terms which still have meaning in the world which darkness rules. Use all the little names and symbols which delineate the world of darkness, yet accept them not as your reality. The Holy Spirit uses all of them, but he does not forget creation has one name, one meaning, and a single source which unifies all things within itself. Use all the names the world bestows on them, but for convenience, yet do not forget they share the name of God along with you. God has no name, and yet his name becomes the final lesson that all things are one, and at this lesson does all learning end. Thank you. All names are unified, all space is filled with truth's reflection. Every gap is closed and separation healed. The name of God is the inheritance he gave to those who chose the teaching of the world to take the place of heaven. So glad I was mistaken. In our practicing, our purpose is to let our minds accept what he has given as the answer to the pitiful inheritance you made as fitting tribute to the Son he loves. No one can fail who seeks the meaning of the name of God. Experience must come to supplement the word. But first you must accept one name for all reality and realize the many names you gave its aspects have distorted what you see, but have not interfered with truth at all. One name we bring into our practicing, one name we use to unify our sight. And although we use a different name for each awareness of an aspect of God's Son, we understand they have but one name, which he has given them. It is this name we use in practicing, and through its use all foolish separations disappear which kept us blind. And we are given strength to see beyond them. Now our sight is blessed with blessings we can give as we receive. Father, our name is yours. In it we are united with all living things and you who are their one creator. What we made and call by many different names is but a shadow we have tried to cast across your own reality. And we are glad and thankful we were wrong. All our mistakes we give to you that we may be absolved of all effects of our errors, of all effects our errors seem to have. And we accept the truth you give in place of every one of them. Your name is our salvation and escape from what we made. Your name unites us in the oneness, which is our inheritance and peace. Amen. Good lesson. I love it. I like the idea of, that you can fearlessly go back into the world having had a brief experience or a moment's respite from that idea of the separate nature of things, and go back into the world using the identity and the nature of those things as understood by those who still find themselves struggling within the framework of the world's thinking, to begin to offer a better way, to begin to offer something else. So, and I guess, you have to have your own, like that old saying, until you love yourself, you don't know what it is to love anyone else, or you can't love anyone else. Well, in a sense, that's true, because this is a journey of self-love. And you have to purify your own mind first, okay? Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. And that purification requires that the mind embark upon the process of atonement, of accepting at one-ment with all things. So there is no separate person, place, thing, time, no gap between myself and this phone, no nothing. It's all illusory. There is only God. And I love the movie I Heart Huckabees, or I Love Huckabees, where I think it's Dustin Hoffman and his wife, but Dustin Hoffman is a psychologist and he's playing the part of the teacher, the educator, pitted against his wife, also a psychologist, and they have different ways of explaining things. But Dustin Hoffman holds up a blanket. He says, this blanket is everything, it's God. And then he puts his finger up through the blanket from underneath and makes a lump in the blanket. And he says to the fellow, he says, now what do you see? And he says, well, there's a blanket with a lump in it. So that's two things. There's a blanket and a lump. And Dustin Hoffman tries to impress upon him, no, there's still only the blanket. Right? Your mind is telling you that there is two things. Doesn't matter how many fingers you put up in the blanket, it's still a blanket. Right? And that's a very, very simple sort of thing. It's like a drop of water in the ocean. Is that once the drop falls in, is it still the drop, or is it, no, it's the ocean. Right? We're all part of it. And but I love that you can use the symbols and the names safely, having made that decision and having realized that you no longer need to believe in the meaning that you once gave all those things. Although the purification of that meaning that you once gave all those things in your mind can take some time, dependent upon your willingness to pursue the goal, which depends on basically how much do you want love. How much do you want love, and only love? Across the board, not love, special love, but love unconditional. All right, that's it. So see you tomorrow for another lesson, and peace.